Chapter 13. Have you any idea how many kids it takes to turn off one light in the kitchen? 3. It takes 1 to say, "What light?" and 2 more to say, "I didn't turn it on." Irma Bombeck. Discipline, the final frontier. There are 3 I's in discipline for good reason. I should be disciplined before I discipline, so that I may discipline for my children's sake, not my own. If only you could see me sitting here trying to write this chapter for the gazillionth time. Every other chapter has flown from within me without much strife. This one must be really important because it's the first one that I wrote and had vetoed by my editor. Shot down the first attempt, unemotionally, I might add. Ugh. It's taken me a while to recover and numerous attempts to get it done and prioritized, and I have a litany of excuses and distractions I've used to avoid this moment, and the beautiful irony of it all, of course, is the title of the chapter. Discipline. Indeed, the final frontier. I think it's the final frontier because no one really wants to have to discipline themselves or their children, do we? In our perfect world, isn't everything going according to some unwritten plan? Aren't we incredibly well disciplined, everything done on time, with style, and our children? Perfectly self-disciplined, and we have no need to move out of our comfort zones and armchairs to affect any changes in direction of their behavior, right? Why not? It's not fair. I don't want to have to discipline any more than you do. And what do we get if we don't? Brats, and we become brats. Lazy, self-indulgent. Well, anyway, let's not go too far down that path because there's a whole lot of those undisciplined aspects of life that I yearn for and enjoy, and, well, there's a time and place for everything, isn't there? So what's the time and place for disciplining our children? What should we be doing? What should we not be doing? Should we be doing anything? How should we discipline them? Why? What are we hoping for? Do we care about the outcome of our children? Do we care enough about the outcome to practice self-discipline? Why does disciplining our children have to include self-discipline? You see? The final frontier. I mean, who actually wants to think about all of that and create a disciplining strategy that is ideal for our children when it generally does not suit us in the moment? Let's think about it. If we were given a team of soldiers to be, or a ballet troupe to be, or a sports team to be of any kind, and our task was to make the most of them humanly possible. We were given them at birth, with lots of people to assist, but we only had 18 years to develop them, mold them, train them, encourage them, build up their confidence, and assist them. After that, they'd be on their own to enter the international championships in their particular field, and there was hundreds of millions in the currency of our choice for the winning team. Do you think we'd plan a strategy to discipline them so they don't go off the rails? Do you think we'd change ourselves to make sure we learn and become the best coach we can be? Possibly create a healthy eating strategy for them and us to ensure we're all as healthy as possible for the journey? Would we possibly create a strategy to encourage their thinking patterns, their social choices, their education, their opportunities? Come on now. There's hundreds of millions on the table 18 years from now. Are you in? I'm in. You in? If you are in, then is it possible when having and developing children that strategies for phenomenal outcomes should be played with before we get going? Or if not before, whilst we're going? Children left to their own devices without structure generally get themselves into a spot of trouble at some point, don't they? It's like a natural descent into, what's that? Let me go and investigate it. Or, I want my toy and you're not giving it to me and no one is around, so bash. Or, oops, some of the toys spilled onto the carpet from the box. Let's throw the rest around the room, that should be fun. We could go on and on. I'm sure you have fantastic stories of how you found a room or a closet or the CD racks emptied, and on it goes. And obviously the curiosity of inquiring minds is a beautiful thing to nurture in a safe environment that won't compromise the mind or the little body it's housed in, sure, but that's just it, I think. the boundaries within which we free our children to explore their talents, themselves and their environments. Boundaries being a success strategy to encourage and protect them, right? A while before I got married and was ready to become a mother, I realized that I was in a fantastic position to watch my friends with their children and make decisions about the best strategy I felt would serve my children to enable their most ideal outcome as an adult. I remember sitting around the kitchen table in my parents' home at about 19 years old. I was there with a few friends from university, and we found ourselves on the topic of how we were disciplined when we were growing up. Did we laugh? The stories. But anyway, I remember that some of our memories were of pretty hectic disciplining. For example, one of my friends recalled being chased with a shoe by her mom when she had disciplined her younger brother for messing with her dolls. There were memories of being hit by parents, lots of yelling, grounding, loss of rights and privileges. Overall, though, we emerged a pretty decent lot of girls. Maybe a little on the go out and party side, but good girls. Not ridiculously good, though, you know what I mean, right? Anyway, the overwhelming sentiment of the casual conversation that evening drew to the conclusion that harsh discipline from a loving place, occasionally delivered, never destroyed us, but we all had ideas about how we would raise our children with more sensitivity, similar and sometimes different boundaries. Of course, the generation we are birthing is living through some pretty scary stuff media-wise, so it is different, but our hearts were in the right place, I think. So when I was in my early 20s, I started to look around at the way my friends were handling their children and began to develop a strategy for how I would best discipline my children. One of the things I realized pretty early on in that strategizing is that there were many ways to do it right so that a child is highly likely to develop with a good sense of their own self and their value. And there were many ways to shatter that and develop children very likely to look for affirmation somewhere and perhaps find it in dangerous places for them. I also realized that to be a more ideal parent who disciplines from a place of incredible sensitivity, but also from a place of loving strength, I had a lot of work to do on myself. I was born, shall we say, a little fiery, prone to emotional reactions instead of well-thought-out responses, which has ultimately not served me or the relationships I have been working at developing when it surfaced. So how much more so might that compromise my relationship with my children, and especially their relationship with me? Working to refine my character is a work in progress, and getting the fire to simmer has taken a lot of time and dedication to the cause to achieve, and still, there's the emotional outburst that may escape from time to time. Not a nice feeling, but then I breathe in and out, forgive myself my humanity, and begin again. Back on the quest for zero shortcomings. Well, if you don't dream, you don't stand a chance, do you? Anyway, where was I? Oh, right. Defining my ideal child-raising strategy. Eventually, I had to look outside of my friends. They just weren't enough for the quantitative acquisition of data. So I started reading and researching, and here's what I put together as a pretty great strategy for child rearing. I can confidently say that I have tried my best to stick with this strategy through thick and thin, through my thin and thick, and so far, the results seem really positive. We still have years to go to the international championships of go out there into the world and become the greater you, my boy. But it does seem on track for a good show, gratefully.